Kelsey Mitchell's situation is just getting worse.
She made a comment.
These two players can win some games without Clark, but
Clark can't win a single game.
Diminishing Caitlin Clark's importance, saying that they should really be running the offense through Kelsey Mitchell.
What if I told you a single comment, not from a rival player, not from a coach, but from a family member, might have just exposed the deepest fracture inside the Indiana Fever locker room? It wasn't during a press conference or a game. It was a quiet post on Facebook, buried in the comments, that suddenly set off alarms across the WNBA.
Clark's delusional fans can stay mad and call me all of the names in the book, but we all know, including y'all who carries my Fever team, these two players can win some games without Clark, but Clark can't win a single game without them.
Kelsey Mitchell, a respected veteran, had her legacy thrown into question, not because of her play, but because her own sister went after Caitlin Clark in public. What followed wasn't just backlash, it was a full-blown reckoning. And while the team tried to move forward, fans couldn't ignore what had just happened. This isn't just a story about opinions. This is about jealousy, leadership, silence, and the unspoken war that could destroy a franchise. Let's break it all down.
Steve Brown Person writes on Facebook, Clark's delusional fans can stay mad and call me all the names in the book, but we all saw, including y'all, who carries my Fever team, and we all know who the offense should be run through. Kelsey Mitchell's sister apparently commented. Chelsea Mitchell, which is Kelsey Mitchell's twin sister, she made a comment diminishing Caitlin Clark's importance, saying that they should really be running the offense through Kelsey Mitchell.
It began with a simple social media post, one that could have been ignored, brushed off, or deleted before it spread. But instead, it ignited one of the biggest controversies of the WNBA season. Chelsea Mitchell, the twin sister of Indiana Fever guard Kelsey Mitchell, commented under a Facebook post that openly disrespected Caitlin Clark. The comment suggested that Caitlin couldn't win a single game without players like Kelsey, and that the team's offense should run through her instead.
Clark's delusional fans can stay mad and call me all of the names in the book. Whether you like it or not, these two players can win some games without Clark, but Clark can't win a single game without them.
Within hours, that comment went viral. Screenshots spread like wildfire. Fans were stunned, not just by the insult, but by who it came from. Chelsea wasn't some random fan. She was a former Division I athlete, someone who knows basketball. And she wasn't speaking anonymously. This was a Mitchell family member, loud and public. Chelsea doubled down, even liking posts that called Clark overrated and her fans delusional. It wasn't just shade, it was personal. And in the world of professional sports, personal always means public.
Kelsey Mitchell's situation is just getting worse right now. And it's something that is getting completely out of hand. They want to blame Caitlin Clark for everything, no matter how minor it is. Let's not sink to their level.
The problem wasn't just the post, it was what happened next. As Chelsea's comments went viral, instead of cooling the fire, more people close to the Mitchell family jumped in. Friends and relatives began reposting disrespectful takes about Caitlin, calling her a glorified role player, and even comparing her to controversial athletes completely unrelated to women's basketball. One family friend allegedly shared disturbing images mocking Clark, crossing a line from petty to poisonous.
Why are we running with this? It's time to start talking about how CC ruining the Fever momentum. With her, I don't see them making the playoffs when she was out. I could see them upsetting the New Yorks and Minnesota in the playoffs. Man, what are people talking about, man? Why are we running with this narrative, dog?
Suddenly, what began as a snide opinion turned into a coordinated smear campaign. The kind of negativity that doesn't just hurt a player, it poisons a locker room. And in this case, it did. Caitlin Clark didn't respond. She didn't post, tweet, or clap back. But the fans did, in overwhelming numbers. They flooded comment sections, lit up Twitter threads, and demanded answers. Why was Kelsey Mitchell silent? And more importantly, did her silence mean she agreed?
They played 13 games with Caitlin Clark. They're 8-5. They've played 11 games without Caitlin Clark. They're 4-7. And they've had a harder... Actually, I would say they're probably strength of schedule is about even. Strength of schedule is about even. With Caitlin Clark, they're 3-1, or they're 2-1 against the Atlanta Dream. They're 1-1 against the Liberty.
In moments like this, silence can speak louder than words. And Kelsey Mitchell's silence was deafening. As fans waited for her to make a statement, distance herself from her sister's comments, or offer any form of clarification, nothing came. No apology, no denial. Just silence. That silence quickly turned into suspicion. Was this just Chelsea's opinion? Or was she echoing things said in the Mitchell household behind closed doors?
Kelsey Mitchell's sister apparently commented. Chelsea Mitchell, which is Kelsey Mitchell's twin sister, she made a comment diminishing Caitlin Clark's importance and saying that they should really be running the offense through Kelsey Mitchell.
Analysts started asking the same question. If a twin sister, someone that close, felt comfortable posting something so divisive publicly, what was being said privately? Was this the first time these feelings had surfaced, or just the first time they'd gone public? And in the middle of it all stood Caitlin Clark, still playing, still leading, while whispers of resentment echoed behind her back.
You remember in the offseason, Kelsey Mitchell was a free agent. And for a long period of time, I got the sense that she actually came kind of close to not coming back to the Indiana Fever.
While the drama swirled off the court, Caitlin Clark responded the only way she knew how, with her game. Just days after the Facebook storm exploded, she stepped onto the hardwood and dropped a dominant stat line. 29 points, 13 assists, 5 rebounds. No tweets, no interviews, no subtle digs, just pure performance. It was the kind of game that silences critics, even if they never admit it, and fans took notice. Clark's message was clear without saying a word. She didn't need to engage in the drama. She didn't need to defend herself. Her play was her response. And in doing so, she positioned herself not just as a star, but as the mature leader of a team still figuring out how to protect its own.
The free agency bonanza of which, and if you are a free agent that's worth anything, and if you want to build your brand, you want to play next to Caitlin Clark.
If Chelsea Mitchell's comments had any weight, the numbers quickly crushed them. The truth was brutal and obvious. The Fever weren't a winning team before Caitlin Clark arrived. In 2022, they won just 5 games. In 2023, they bumped up to 13. But even with both Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston on the roster, the team had plateaued in mediocrity. Then came Caitlin. In her rookie season, the Fever surged to 20 wins. Their offensive rating soared to the highest in franchise history. Games started selling out. Viewership exploded. Merchandise flew off shelves. And in the standings, the Fever, once ignored, suddenly looked like a playoff threat. With Clark on the court, they were 8-5. Without her, a painful 4-8. These weren't opinions. These were facts, and they told a story no family post could rewrite. Instead of celebrating the team's progress, Kelsey Mitchell's inner circle took a different route, and that route pointed directly at Caitlin Clark. As the viral posts mounted, so did the questions. Was this really just one rogue comment, or was it a reflection of something deeper? Fans began to suspect envy. Kelsey had been in Indiana for 7 seasons. She'd poured her heart into the team, but never got the headlines, the endorsements, or the national spotlight. Then Clark arrived, and within months, she was everywhere. On posters, commercials, billboards. And while Clark seemed focused on team success, Mitchell's family looked focused on reclaiming the spotlight. Some fans defended Kelsey, others turned, but the consensus was clear. Something inside that locker room had shifted. As the noise grew louder, attention turned toward the Fever's chemistry. Observers started replaying moments from earlier in the season, hard fouls on Clark where no teammate stepped in, silent benches when she got shoved, games where she took cheap shots and no one retaliated. And suddenly, those moments looked different. They looked intentional, personal, the kind of inaction that made fans wonder, was Caitlin Clark really supported by her teammates? Or was she just tolerated? Analysts began speculating. Was Kelsey Mitchell's frustration leaking into the team dynamic? Could a private rivalry between teammates be boiling beneath the surface, quietly splitting the team into factions? Caitlin Clark had been the reason Indiana became relevant again. Yet she was the one facing indirect attacks from within her own squad's orbit. Fans were confused, even angry. Why would anyone, especially a veteran's family, disrespect the player who saved the franchise? And why hadn't Kelsey Mitchell said a word to shut it down? Public trust began to crack. Some called for Mitchell to speak up. Others questioned whether she should even remain on the team. And through it all, Clark kept her head down and kept delivering. But the deeper issue remained. Could a team win when its stars weren't aligned? Insiders began noticing a shift in Kelsey Mitchell's demeanor. Her body language changed. She looked tense in games, more hesitant in interviews. Post-game media sessions grew shorter. Her responses, once passionate, became cautious, like someone navigating a minefield. And when reporters asked about team chemistry, her answers felt rehearsed, distant. Fans noticed. So did media outlets. The confident scorer now looked like a player weighed down by pressure and possibly regret. But if Kelsey was struggling inside, she wasn't showing it publicly. Not yet. And that silence only made the speculation grow. On the other side of the controversy, Caitlin Clark never wavered. The more people tried to drag her down, the higher she climbed. She continued dropping triple-doubles, making highlight reels, and showing up in clutch moments. Fans rallied around her even harder, seeing the double standard she faced. Where others lashed out, Clark stayed locked in. Where others clung to drama, she clung to leadership. That contrast between chaos and composure told fans everything they needed to know. Caitlin wasn't just the face of the Fever. She was the example of how to lead under pressure. The whispers around Kelsey's future began turning into public conversation. Her contract was expiring. She was on a one-year deal. And the drama surrounding her family now posed a new problem. Would Indiana want her back? Some insiders suggested she had nearly walked away during the offseason. Others claimed her return wasn't fully secure. But one thing was clear. Being teammates with Caitlin Clark meant being in the spotlight, and some weren't built for that. Kelsey's public image, once unshakable, now looked fragile, and with fans turning, management likely started weighing the risks. Even if Kelsey Mitchell didn't type a single word, the weight of her sister's posts landed squarely on her shoulders. In the eyes of the public, perception often becomes reality. And the reality that fans saw was a veteran player surrounded by a circle that had no respect for the very person keeping their team alive. Whether it was Kelsey Mitchell's comment, the friends reposting disrespectful comparisons, or the family chatter about Clark ruining momentum, it all added up to one thing: sabotage disguised as support. And as it all unraveled in real time, the silence from Kelsey only added fuel to the fire. Not once did she come forward to defend her teammate. Not once did she clarify where she stood, and that void allowed the worst assumptions to take root. The trust fans once had in her started to wither. And the locker room? That became a question mark too. How do you build chemistry on the court when fractures are showing off the court? How do you play side by side when the person beside you won't speak up when your name is dragged? For all of Kelsey's years with the Fever, for all the points she's scored and games she's played, this moment, her silence in the face of disrespect, may become the one thing people remember most. Not because she caused the storm, but because she stood still and watched it rage. By this point, it was clear that Kelsey Mitchell's family wasn't just venting, they were damaging. What could have been handled privately had spiraled into something much darker. Every repost, every like on an anti-Clark comment felt like another cut to a team that was already fragile. And yet, no one from Mitchell's circle stepped forward to clarify or backpedal. On the contrary, more noise emerged, with one relative even claiming Caitlin Clark was ruining the Fever's momentum. It was an absurd suggestion, given that Clark had taken the team from irrelevance to national headlines in less than a season. But the narrative wasn't based on facts anymore. It was rooted in ego, and that ego was starting to make fans question whether Kelsey Mitchell and her people truly understood what it meant to be part of a team. Because while everyone around her was pouring gasoline on the fire, Clark was still carrying the water, showing up to every game, absorbing every hit, and refusing to let the circus pull her off course. For those still unsure where the truth lay, all it took was a look at the numbers. Kelsey Mitchell had been a solid scorer for years, but during her entire tenure, the Fever had never made the playoffs. 7 seasons, no breakthrough. Meanwhile, in Clark's rookie year, everything changed. Ticket sales spiked, jersey sales led the league, national TV games surged, and the Fever's offensive efficiency reached a franchise record. They were finally contenders, and the only major difference was the addition of Caitlin Clark. To ignore that, or worse, to act like it was a fluke, felt not just dishonest, but bitter. The fans saw it clearly. Media saw it clearly. Sponsors saw it. And now, the organization had to decide whether keeping players surrounded by that level of resentment was worth the distraction. Because the truth was undeniable. This was no longer just a team with Caitlin Clark. It was Caitlin Clark's team. And any attempt to downplay that reality only made the speaker look smaller. As the narrative continued to spin out, the spotlight turned sharply onto Kelsey Mitchell herself. Once viewed as a respected leader and a loyal cornerstone of the franchise, she was now being questioned. Was her silence a sign of agreement, or was she caught between loyalty to her sister and duty to her team? Either way, her reputation took a hit, and not because of anything she did on the court, but because she let the court of public opinion shape her legacy without stepping in. And that silence, that unwillingness to draw a clear line, cost her dearly. Former fans grew cold. Supporters started unfollowing. Analysts who once praised her began calling her detached. In a league where image matters and where locker room unity is essential, Kelsey's public perception was crumbling. And the saddest part? It didn't have to be this way. A simple message of support for her teammate could have changed the entire tone. But instead, the silence screamed louder than any tweet ever could. Behind the highlight reels and post-game interviews, there was something else brewing: emotional exhaustion. Insiders began reporting that Kelsey Mitchell looked different, not just in body language, but in spirit. She was quieter on the bench, less vocal during huddles, and noticeably reserved in front of cameras. Her post-game interviews became clipped, vague, almost scripted. And though she never broke down publicly, those close to the team whispered about visible tension, moments where she seemed on the verge of tears. It wasn't just the online backlash, it was the isolation, the feeling that she was being blamed for something her family started, but she didn't have the words or courage to stop. That kind of pressure eats away at a player. And while Caitlin Clark rose under that same pressure, Mitchell seemed to retreat. Fans began to feel sorry for her, not because of what was said, but because she had let it all fester into something she couldn't control anymore. By now, the damage had been done. The fan base was fractured, the locker room chemistry had been called into question, and the front office had to be wondering, is this situation salvageable? Kelsey Mitchell was on a one-year contract, a deal that was supposed to be a fresh start. But now, many believed it might be her final season with the Fever. Not because she lacked talent, but because trust, once lost, is nearly impossible to rebuild. And in professional sports, optics matter. From the outside looking in, it seemed like Mitchell's camp had gone to war with the very person who resurrected the franchise. And when your silence lets that perception grow, it becomes your reality. The truth is, whether Kelsey meant to or not, her family's actions became her burden. And unless she makes a bold move to distance herself and rebuild trust, her next chapter may not include the team she's called home for nearly a decade. At the end of the day, this wasn't just about social media comments or sibling loyalty. It was about the future of a team, the image of a player, and the weight of silence in the face of controversy. Caitlin Clark walked into a fractured franchise and turned it into a national headline. Not with drama, but with performance, professionalism, and poise. She took hits, literal and verbal, and never once broke. Meanwhile, others stood silent while the narrative spiraled. And when the dust settled, the contrast was impossible to miss. Clark kept rising, Mitchell kept slipping. And the sad reality is this: no matter how much history you have with a team, once the fans lose faith, it's nearly impossible to get it back. Kelsey Mitchell may have started this season as a co-leader, a co-star, but the events of the past few weeks made one thing brutally clear. There's only one face of the Indiana Fever now, and no amount of family posts or side conversations can change that. If you're still riding with Caitlin Clark, the unbothered star who lets her game speak louder than any clapback, drop your favorite WNBA player name in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories the league doesn't want you to hear.